How's it going, guys? Welcome to Audio Addiction. We have the infamous Cyborg Octopus with us today. He can say his name, what he does in the band.
Hey, I'm Ian Forsyth, and I do vocals in Cyborg Octopus.
Awesome, Ian. Well, thank you for joining us.
Hell yeah.
I want to give a huge shout out to Kristen. She is one of the nicest human beings on the face of the earth, so I want to always give her a shout.
She's killing it for us, doing interviews, getting our videos out there. We just had one on Heavy Blog is Heavy last week, new single. So yeah, she's doing work for us behind the scenes. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, she is the best. So I always want to give her a shout. But as I told Ian before, I have heard of your band through a couple of different people through my grapevine of friends, and I saw Kristen's email pop up, and I was like, it's fate, it's time, the time has come, and we are here. So it's beautiful. But Ian, I have to start off, I'm sure you get asked this a ton, but how did Cyborg Octopus start out? How did you guys get your members? I would kind of guess to assume the anthology story of Cyborg Octopus.
So most of us were friends or acquaintances in high school.
Okay.
So this band kind of came from another band that was started in high school. So after we all graduated, a couple members went off to school, a couple members stayed in town, the usual. And so we got together and did a 5-song EP that was 12 minutes long in 2011.
Oh my God.
2011. So since that EP in 2011, I'm the only founding member left in the band. So we've replaced pretty much everybody at one point or another.
Wow.
So it's been a long road, but I look at Cyborg as like a community of our friends here in the Bay Area that all, we've had so many people fill in on drums or guitar and stuff over the year, but we've really had a solid lineup for the past, I would say 8 or 9 years. It's been the same group of guys. So it's just been a long road. We've been gigging a lot in the Bay Area and doing tours when we can.
Sure.
And so with everything the past couple of years, we've kind of been under wraps. Right around the time we started thinking about recording the album is when everything went down in 2020. So it did take a little bit longer than we wanted. But Cyborg Octopus originally was a name to get people's attention. If you didn't like us or you didn't like the name, you were going to check it out. And if you did like the name, you were going to check it out. That was kind of the idea back in the day. And we thought about maybe changing the name over the years, but now we're all too attached to it now. It's too late to turn around.
It is memorable because I think I had shout outs to my friend Kyle. He's in Follow You Now, and also I know he does Archaeologist, and he was like this band, you need to check this band out. And I think it was
plays guitar for us occasionally too. So we just had a 3-day run with Kyle, and he fills in on guitar for us when he's not doing stuff with Fallujah. And we're really appreciative. We're gonna one day. I'm trying to print T-shirts for there's probably close to 10 people who have played guitar, filled in guitar for our band. And I want to make shirts that say I played guitar in Cyborg Octopus, and all I got was this dumbass T-shirt. So one day those will be going out to all the fill-ins over the years. So
that would be
Kyle's
great.
Awesome.
Yeah, he was like, "Have you checked this band out before?" And I was like, I feel like with a name that memorable, I would be like, yeah, I definitely checked him out. And then I remember him just telling me, just go listen to it, go check out their music. And then I was just like, this is wild. This is not obviously the name fits you guys very much so. And I was like, okay, I got to listen to this new record that's going to be coming out. And I just listened to Spectres just before we hopped on. And I was just like, the music video is great, first and foremost. I got to give a shout out to the music video. But
Thank you.
Also on top of that, the musicality of it, I was like, what's going on here? This is so wild. This is so cool. So I obviously hope the album lives up to that just off the wall insanity that I come to expect from you guys now. And yeah, it was just kind of a fun thing that, again, Kyle had mentioned to me, and it was and I was just like, okay, it's just stuck in the back of my head. And I had a couple other people, I imagine in the Bay Area scene that had said, yeah, definitely, if you can get Cyborg on, get Cyborg on. So I just want to let everybody know that it finally happened and we're here. So
hell yeah. And we've done really well. I think it's hard to measure how many how many people like us, because we're not a huge social media band.
Sure.
We're not all over the social media game, and I feel like a lot of the people that come to our shows, it's a lot of word of mouth. Like the live show is kind of ridiculous too. So
Yeah.
it's like it's kind of just traveled over time. People hear about it, and then they get a chance to see us, and then hopefully they keep coming back after that, right? So we just did a couple shows this weekend, and it was cool. We've played Sacramento a ton of times. We've played San Francisco a few times over the years, and just a lot of new people from the hometown shows that we're normally playing. So it was really cool.
I also think too, like, at least for myself, I'm always looking for new bands to just listen to and enjoy. But I would argue that there was just a lot of time for people to just check out bands that they just didn't have time to check out, or like, man, people keep telling me about this band, Cyborg Octopus, and I just never had a chance to like listen to it. And then because of like the pandemic and all that sort of stuff, I feel like I had an opportunity to listen to just bands that I like either wasn't really invested into and spent more time to listen to them, or I went out and looked for like really obscure bands that I'm like, okay, like this is wild. Like another band that I had on pretty recently, also thanks to Kristen, was Steak Sauce Mustache, and I know that they're like I know that they're like in the same realm in terms of just wildness, and so, and then just I would argue even too, like Silent Pendulum Records in general has some of the most off the wall band. First of all, band names, like they must have like they must scour the internet for like the most obscure band names, and kudos to them, because honestly that's what I think makes their record label really memorable to me. But not only that, but just like the musicality of your bands, especially your band too, just having you guys on is just, I was listening through, like, as I said, to Spectres, and I was just like blown away with like some of the like more like symphonic elements, and then there's just some like crazy like choral kind of effects going on, and I'm just like, I was just sitting here like getting everything going, and I was like kind of like listening to it in the background, and there would be some times where I'd be like, what? Did I hear that? Did I hear that right? Like, and I know if I go back and listen to it after this, I'm going to find something that I didn't find the first time around and be just as shocked. So
and that's definitely
that's awesome.
a goal, right? That's definitely a goal when we're making the music. I think a lot of times how Cyborg songs start is like, wouldn't it be cool if we did blank? You know what I mean? And it's like a dumb idea that someone thought would work, right? But we, when we decide on some of these ideas, we really do go full force in terms of trying to fit the vibe of what we're going for, but also make a good song. And I think we're very melody driven, right? We're very like, before it was the riffs, and now I think this next album we were trying to take all of the instruments and really all push single melodies instead of like riff salading, and giving a lot of different things. We focused really hard on trying to make songs and everything drive towards a good conclusion, that tension and release. So yeah, the instruments, and having Patty playing sax and keys, he's the only one of us that is musically trained. So he's the only one that actually has a degree in music. So it helps a lot that all those accents and all the extra pieces are all done by someone who really understands music a lot more than the rest of us in the band, for sure.
Big shout outs to Patty, because like I said, some of the like sax lines, some of the just like the way that I kind of assimilate it towards like almost like a movie soundtrack, where there's just like so much stuff going on, like internally, like the guitars, the drums, the bass, the vocals, and then you get like some of the external stuff that you're like, okay, like if you're really listening to it, like you'll be able to pick up on stuff that you might not have heard of. And then there's like probably like even a little bit further out in the like musical sphere that's just like just something a little weird that might just show up like maybe once or twice, but you'll remember that because it's just so out there. So I gotta give kudos to Patty. Give a little clap for Patty. He's doing the work. But I have to ask Ian, because like we were talking about earlier, you guys went into the studio getting ready to get the ball rolling for the next record. Do you feel like you had more time to kind of expand upon sounds and ideas? I know like we just talked about like the riff salad and stuff. Like, do you feel that because of the pandemic, you were able to maybe spend a little bit more time on this record that's going to be coming out, as opposed to maybe like in previous, versions of Cyborg Octopus, you may not have had the time allotted to do that.
I don't think that was really a difference maker.
Okay.
We work slow pretty much no matter what's happening. So before it was slow just because it was one person writing a lot of the music, and then
Hmm.
all the opinions kind of had to filter through one person, right? So there was a lot of that, and now it's just slow because we're all working together and all have different, we all have different opinions on how. So Spectres, that song alone had like 4 or 5 different endings, and we had to actually set up a poll and take votes on which ending of the song we liked the
What?
best.
Oh my
So
god.
so we have, it's a lot of extra guitar profiles, a lot of like listening, a lot of, and then this album, as opposed to the last album, I pre-pro'd all the vocals at my house. So we had a lot of time where I have a second bedroom with a walk-in closet that's
Oh,
kind of
nice.
my studio, and so we have people over a lot in terms of just like yelling things out. And so even members of the band that didn't write lyrics, they'd go in and yell patterns into the vocals just so I could hear what they thought about how like the vocals should go on certain spots. So
Sure.
there
Yeah.
was a lot more involvement from everybody on every individual part, and that's really what took a long time. But once we got into recording, we had everything down, right? So once we got in there, it was a quick process. But then after mastering, it's like, how do we actually want this to sound?
Sure.
Then
Yeah.
that part took a long time, right? So then we went through like 6 or so versions of the album before we kind of picked one. Not to mention, because the songs sonically are all very different, there's a lot of
Yeah.
different textures. Getting one equal master across the whole thing, right, is very difficult and takes a lot of time. So there's really interesting challenges that come with being a band that doesn't sound the same all the time.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But we love it, right? We wouldn't do it any other way. So yeah, we're really happy with how the album turned out.
Yeah, I feel like again, listen to Spectres and then Seizure of Character like slightly before that one, and I was just like, what is going on here? Like, I think that's like the best way I could describe my reaction to just like really like sitting down and like listening to it. Like, I was actually like cooking dinner and I was like, I'm having Cyborg Octopus on. I'm probably not going to have time to sit at my desk and listen to it. So I'm like
Yeah.
cooking dinner and I have like my like, my little like wireless headphones in, and I'm like, I was like standing there in the kitchen and I was like cutting something, and then I heard some part in like Seizure of Character, and I was like, I literally just like just stared off into the distance and was like, did I hear that right? Like that's kind of out there. Like, and then just with Spectres too, and watching the music video after I was like eating and I was like watching it, I was like, these guys have something like unique to what they do, and I couldn't even really honestly put like a finger on it where I was like, okay, this is that. Like,
Yeah,
it
and
was
I
just
think
like the door
I
was
think
wide open.
we yeah, and we've never focused on like the genre thing, right? We've never been like, oh, we're this kind of band. I really do think this album, like all of us really brought our personalities forward, right?
Hmm. Oh
So,
yeah.
and we really are best friends. Like we're at shows together all the time, and yeah, they're my homies. They're the boys. So
Oh yeah.
when we're all doing this, it seems crazy, but it's like Cyborg Octopus cohesive, right? It's like
Yeah. Sure.
it's all one band, and that's what we love about it. And at the same time, we really enjoy kind of messing with people's expectations on what metal is in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff that sounds pretty samey nowadays. Even in like the prog space, there's a lot of stuff that sounds very samey. And I love a lot of music, right? I love a lot of prog, and I love a lot of metal. But there's so many other good things from other genres, and like textures and like layering and things
Oh
that other
yeah. Oh
genres
yeah.
do that we really want to get a hold of. It's pretty funny because one of the songs is called Hindsight, but we sort of took the idea before Stranger Things came out. We
Hmm.
were trying to do like kind of an 80s power ballad, like an 80s like running up the hill style
Oh, all
ballad
right. All right.
mixed with like a tech death song, right? So we have these different ideas of like textures or sounds that we really like, and then we just sort of drive those ideas forward until we're satisfied. And that's why it takes sometimes like it took us 6 years to do this album, because sometimes we're not satisfied for a long time.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Man, that's a it kind of puts it in perspective too. I think like it takes that amount of dedication to really care about the type of music that you put out. And I mean, arguably any band could say that, certainly,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
for having an album that you've been working on for 6 years, I mean, that's some real time spent and time
Yeah.
put into it. So I genuinely hope people go listen to it, because I mean, that, I think if anything, that sold me on, like, I mean, not that I don't have any other reason to buy vinyl,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like, that was a reason. This is definitely a reasoning that's going to go in my head and be like, wow, these guys collectively spent 6 years on a record. Like, they deserve
Yeah.
my money because they have spent that like that's like almost my entire YouTube career they had spent on one album. So
And
I
that's
mean,
really
that's
been the
wild.
crazy part. It's been crazy. You know, we've worked in silence for a really long time. You
Sure,
know, people
yeah.
saying, "Hey, where's the new album?" And we're like, "It's
It's
coming." You
coming.
know,
It's
like give
coming.
it
Yeah.
time, give it time. And you know, we could only do so many like soon posts on Facebook before people are just fed up with it, right? So a couple of years ago, we just stopped posting. We just stopped like giving updates because we didn't really have anything. And then we had to make a post like, "Hey, we're not dead. We're just still working," right? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, we're super glad to finally have something to show for it. And those videos, the video Spectres was directed by me. So in terms of shot for shot, I was working with Michael Alvarez from Flub, which is on the Artisan era, and we worked with him making the video. And it was just a full day of shoots and reshoots. And I bought all the outfits for everybody too, so all the costumes
Oh
were
my God,
me
that's
too.
awesome.
So I really went all out in terms of just trying to get a cohesive look for us to all be really dumb together.
I listen. If anything, you're preaching to the choir. I feel like I'm dumb all the time, so that I respect that. I respect that. But
We're trying to channel that. We're trying to channel that.
I feel like you did, and I will leave a link below to go. Everybody go check out Spectres, especially the music video. That was
Awesome.
It was great. But the next question I have for you, Ian, the new album is called Between Light and Air. Obviously people watching this very stoked, I would imagine, the reason why they clicked on it. Much to my dismay, I don't really like asking this question, but I always feel like it's important for maybe people to understand like the album a little bit more. And what better way to describe that is, with picking, a song that you feel like best represents the album collectively. Like you said, I know in terms of genres, you guys did, everything and all the things,
Yeah.
but is there one song in particular that you were like, when people finally listen to the record, is there one that you're like, this is my favorite, like the one that I enjoy the most?
Yeah. There's the first song on the album. It's called Old Stories. And it's sort of about forgetting or re-remembering things from your past, or maybe
Okay.
just forgetting pieces of your life completely, right? So I think Between the Light and Air, the album, that was my idea for the title. I had a couple ideas for the title, but that was, I think, the album's a lot about it's about doubt and interactions with each other, right?
Sure,
It's about
yeah.
energies between people, right? And how you have the ability to affect each other and also yourself, even without knowing it or not. So the kind of forgetting about your memories is a huge part of the album. And again, we worked on it for 6 years, so we're growing through our 20s, right?
Yeah.
We're becoming like real adults and deciding for ourselves and working and choosing who you be, right? I think a lot when you're younger, you're kind of getting pushed in these different directions. But after really like 18, 20 years old, no one gives a shit about you. You know what I
That's true.
mean?
Yeah.
You really need to go out and like make it happen for yourself. And so I think the album's a lot about that, and a lot about like just the challenges that you will encounter in that. And I think it's both tangible and intangible. So
Okay. Yeah.
so Old Stories is really a power metal song, and it's got some of the coolest sax guitar harmonies on the album in my opinion. But it really does drive that point right at the beginning. Right at the beginning
Yeah.
is and one of the lyrics is actually "Learning to breathe is easy." So like the first album is
Yeah.
"Learning to breathe," and so I'm kind of referencing that like that. Oh yeah, that first was easy because we didn't know what we had just yet, and so
Yeah.
I think everything's a lot more real now. But you have to really decide for yourself, and so Between the Light and Air is kind of this nowhere place that you pull from to make make things happen for yourself. Is kind of how I saw it. And between the Buried and Me, there's so many different like small references to things
Yeah.
we love musically in the album. So that's like a slight one, but Between the Light and Air was really a cool idea and something that I appreciate in my regular life. I try to like find that spark, in times where I'm
Yeah.
dealing with tough stuff. So yeah.
I like that. I like the analogy of that because I am getting out of my 20s and I'll be turning 30 next year. And it's like I can resonate with that totally because you like you spend your most of your life kind of being, I want to say controlled, but like I would say almost a little bit force fed in that way of like, this is
Hmm.
how you should live, this is what you should do, all this sort of stuff. And then I kind of attribute it to doing YouTube and starting this 7 years ago, roughly, and being like, I love music. I like talking to people. Let's make this happen. And so I feel like, if anything, I'm going to resonate a lot with this record because it's something that, again, I'm going out and just doing my shit, and you
Yeah,
gotta
and you
go,
believe in what you're
and you
doing,
believe in
right?
what
You
you do.
believe in
Yeah.
it and you're passionate about it. And so I think it's kind of meta, right? Because we believe so passionately in this band and the album is about believing in what you believe in, So it really does kind of loop in on itself. But I think in life, a lot of things loop in on themselves. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? There's a lot of cycles that happen. So um, I think the things that I see and the kind of lessons I'm learning every day is the stuff that matters the most to me now. And life in general is pretty fucking metal. You know what I
Oh, it
mean? Like
is.
just
Oh, yeah.
existing is a metal thing. So I thought, writing about these real interactions, and then Patrick worked with me a lot on the lyrics on the album too. The
Very
lyrics and
cool.
art direction, Patrick and me worked a bit on that together. And Patrick's had a lot of similar experiences that I have in the past couple of years. So it was really cool that when we were writing songs or we were helping each other finish lyrics on songs,
Hmm.
that it was really thematically cohesive because we both were kind of coming from the same place.
Sure. Yeah.
And we've obviously been in the same band for almost 10 years together, so we're going to have that sort of resonance with each other. So yeah, we're really happy with how much we care about the lyrics as well on the album.
Yeah, I think that's and I think I even talked about it in like a previous interview how the correlation of like lyricism within, I would argue, the metal scene is just top. I would say it's up there, certainly with some bands where it's very like intellectual, very thought out. And I think
Hmm.
like even with your guys' stuff, like I felt, obviously learning more about it as, we continue to talk. But I think, if anything, now I'm going to get more out of the songs because now I know that you have told me, like, this is a very, like, okay, I've been working on this for 6 years. Like, here are the lessons that I feel like I can pass off to someone else, or like maybe it might
Hmm.
inspire them to like go out and live their dreams and do their shit, and I think that's
Yeah.
great because like a lot of the times, like, I would even argue too for myself, like where you get into those moments where you're like, I don't know if people care enough about what I do, right? And then you
Hmm.
gotta look yourself in the mirror and be like, listen, you fucking do that shit, because you
Yeah.
you you want it, you want to do it, right? Not because
Yeah,
anybody else
you got
tells
to
you,
care. Hmm.
And I think, you got to have those moments of self-reflection, and I think this album is going to give me that time to be like reflective, and I'm very stoked on it. And I'm obviously going to ask Kristen to send me the whole entire record, but like, I'm very
Yeah, hell yeah.
excited to just kind of like really be like genuinely thoughtful and reflective on like your lyricism and how you kind of went through that process of being reflective. If that
Yeah,
sounds super
yeah.
meta to say, but like,
Well, that's kind of
that's the
what it's
point,
all
maybe.
about, right? That's the point. That's kind of the point, and that's why Between the Light and Air I felt like was such a good title, because it's such an intangible thing. Like all those words make sense, right? But you have to think and decide what that phrase
Sure.
means to
Yeah.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
in the first place. So yeah, it's pretty meta on that regard because we're writing about things that are personal to us, but I think, yeah, just like, one of my favorite bands of all time, System of a Down, right? They write songs that could mean nothing, right? And they might mean nothing to those guys that wrote them, and I know Serge spends so much time on interviews saying, "Oh, we let you interpret however you want." Um,
Yeah.
but that gives them a lot of power, right? It gives the songs a lot of power.
Oh,
So
sure. Yeah.
they're definitely a huge influence of me, and definitely something. There's a couple of pieces on the album that, yeah, that I definitely was like, oh, this is like some of my favorite System of a Down parts. You know what I mean? Like pieces like that I love. And anytime I get that compliment too, I've gotten, you guys are like the System of a Down of tech death, and I'm like, oh my god, that's like way too nice. That's way too nice for us. Yeah, I just. It is very meta, but at the same time, we care about it a lot. So if people like it enough, they'll understand with us. That's the goal.
I think it's not a hard bargain to strive for. Certainly, I do think that people will find that resonance in this album. I mean, I have only listened to 2 songs thus far, and I already feel the resonance, and just kind of obviously getting more of a bird's eye view on like the album as a whole, and then obviously speaking with you about it. But I'm very excited already to kind of just get into the weeds and really listen to it and be like, you know what, I'm gonna Facebook message Ian and be like, oh my god, this is so. I'll do it.
Do it.
I'll do it. But kind of talking about, you did mention a couple influences, but like who kind of got you started out in music? Like it is your obviously you are in a band with your best friends, and that's awesome. Was growing up, like when you were a kid, was music always something that was like important within your family, or was that something like you kind of found out on your own and were like, man,
hugely important,
hugely
important in my family. So we were a church family for most of my childhood life. So I was doing church singing a lot when I was younger.
Oh wow!
And so that's some of my earliest singing experiences was in church. And then my mother is super into disco and funk and soul and R&B, and so she loves Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind and Fire, all that good stuff. And then my dad is a metalhead. My dad likes Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin. And I remember like maybe being 8 or 9 and him taking me to school listening to that first Disturbed album with The Sickness on it.
Ooh,
and
all right.
So we're listening to that, and he said, it's your mother get up and then your father get up. So it's you fucker get up. And he said, it's your father get up, Ian. That's not a bad word. So he was like trying to convince me when I was younger that the lyrics weren't what they were, so he could get away with listening to it in the car because my mom would get mad at him. So I feel like I really did have 2 totally opposite sides of the spectrum in terms of what both of them like musically. And then I listened to all of it, right? So I grew up, and then my older brother, he loves all sorts of music, but he also loves electronic music and was like a rave kid back in the 90s. So I was getting a lot of like techno and trance music in the late 90s as well, when I'm like, I don't know what any of this is. I'm 8. You know what I mean? Like, so there was a lot of me hearing music and loving it, and then spending the years that I finally had access to the internet, kind of finding all this music and spending a lot of time searching for all this weird stuff that I had heard over the years that I just didn't know what it was called, right? Pre-internet. Yeah, just everything. And I think with the band, we try to just mash everything we love, or pieces of everything we love, into the music. So and all of us like all different sorts of stuff. No one in the band listens to exactly the same kind of music. So even when we're together, we just did these road trips, and it was like everybody's trading music back, like try this song, like listening to all this stuff. We're always sharing music when we're together. So very fortunate to have all these people that like this eclectic stuff.
I think that's important, like to have a well-rounded amount of people that like different types of music. Like my goal over the past couple years has been to branch out and listen to other music, like getting into more of that like tech death metal sort of stuff, and then getting into like more like maybe symphonic metal, and then getting into some more indie and folk stuff, and then like some rap stuff, like just trying to branch out of like my musical. I don't say that I live in a box necessarily, because I do try to branch out and listen to different things, but like I feel like sometimes you're just like, man, I don't know if I want to listen to like a top, like sometimes I might forget my phone and I'll listen to like a top 40 song on like the radio, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm really feeling that, but at least it's like something that I can be aware of or in tune with, that I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
wow, this is what's like on the radio now. And it's like, okay, well, I really wish I
exactly.
had something else, but it's okay, enjoy it for the moment, but
Yeah, you're broadening your horizons. You're broadening your horizons just for a little bit, but
just for
uh,
just for a little bit, in the
yeah,
car ride.
the pop stuff's harder to jump on board because I think a lot of it's just so samey. It's so samey. A lot of the pop music, but yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there. And I forgot what I was saying. Continue.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it's like, I think that's the most important thing with the musician, and also just having, I think the coolest thing is like when I find a metal musician and they're like, yeah, I don't. Funnily enough, I don't actually listen to like metal in my daily kind of like routine or whatever, and I
Mhm.
think that's like the coolest thing, because it's you're like, wow, so he's pulling influences that are like not like in the metal sphere, but like still can obviously still do what is needs to be done within the music, and I think
Uh huh.
that's really cool to me, to have like that kind of barometer of like the types of music that I listen to, because I could have, like, I had a folk artist on last night, now we're having a tech death metal band on tonight, like it's this the spectrum. And I think that if anything for me, I hope that my listener base is really trying to go out there and listen to different stuff, because I think it
Hmm.
broadens your horizons, and then you're not like, oh, like that like atypical person you see on the internet that's just like, man, I wish they used to sound like they used to sound, and then like,
Yeah.
and obviously there are going to be people that do that, but I also think that there's been, at least I would argue, more of an opportunity for people to kind of go out there and broaden their horizons musically, or at least I'd hope,
And now's the best time, like to be open minded. There's so much stuff out there. And I find, and even though I'm scared of the algorithms really do find some crazy music sometimes.
Oh, 100%.
If you just let Spotify run, or you just let YouTube go, sometimes it'll drop you some magic, and you don't know how you would have found it otherwise. So there definitely, when we were talking about listening to music during the pandemic, I was sitting right here just listening to just turning Spotify on, or just turning YouTube on, and then just seeing whatever came. And I love just sitting down and listening to a new album. Like, me and my wife do that kind of pretty often.
Very cool. Yeah.
Just sit down and listen and talk about it, like in the moment. Like, I wish they would have done that different, or I thought it was going someplace else. Because you listen to enough metal, you can kind of like, I know where this is going. I know where this is going.
Yeah.
And that's fun. But it's always better when they completely take you by surprise. And so that's, I think, something we also tried to do a decent amount on the album as well. Like, this isn't exactly where you think it's going to go. That's a goal.
I like when, yeah, I agree with that 100%, where like you listen to an album and you're like, there's a fork in the road, and it's just like, okay, you could take the path, most traveled, but if you take the really odd path, that's the one. And
Yeah.
I think I would argue a lot of metal, especially more in that like progressive, they usually hit the road less traveled, and I enjoy that, because it's always like, you're always like looking at the computer screen, or you're like listening and you just make like a weird face, like that. Ooh, I wasn't expecting that one, and
And
that's cool.
sometimes that one part can be the thing that drives somebody back to the song over and over.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
100%.
Like, I
Yeah.
remember growing up listening to Between the Buried and Me, and it'd always be one spot. Like, it'd be an 8-minute song, but there was like one 30-second part that I loved. And then I started loving the part before it and the part after it. And then, it starts growing
It's
out.
going out.
And
Yeah.
then you learn the whole song, and you love the whole song. And it's like this puzzle that you spent hours listening to the same song over and over again. But yeah, that's definitely what we look for. There's enjoyment you can have on first listen, and there's enjoyment you can have after you've listened to it a ton of times. And I think a good song has elements of both of those things. It's not going to be just one or the other.
Yeah, it's like fun, and there's also a memorability to it. Like that's what at least
Yeah. And
attracts
I think
me.
groove ability, I think
Oh,
being able to move, and that's something we also try to do on the album a lot too, is just being able to just like nod your head and know exactly where you need to be, even if it's kind of a confusing part. There's something happening that's keeping that beat, or keeping you in it.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so, tasteful transitions is also so important for that as well.
I did notice that there was some very clean transitions on Seizure of Character that I was like, All right, all right, all
Thank
right.
you,
I see
thank
what
you.
you
Yeah,
guys
it's
are
hard
working
to
with.
do live. It's a pain in the ass to do all of it
Oh,
live, but but it's
you
worth.
listen. I bless your live shows because man, that I feel like I would just be freaking out. So,
Yeah, we're getting the hang of playing these new songs. So we've played the new songs at about 4 shows now so far, 4 or 5 shows. So it's still pretty fresh, but
sure, sure.
every time we're playing them, they're getting better and better, right? So we're really excited. And the old songs are so muscle memory at this point that it's totally fine. But those three songs we play in the middle of the set, we're kind of like, oh, we got this. It's a
You all
six-way
look
trust
at each
fall.
other.
Exactly,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
okay,
We're all
cool.
just crossing our fingers, hoping it works out.
Well, like I said, it seems to be working out pretty well from what I've
Thanks,
gathered,
man.
so that's awesome. But the next question, Ian, we kind of alluded to it, and but I always love asking it because it's probably one of my favorite questions that I ask is, what are you currently listening to? What's on the Spotify? What are we listening to? On a regular basis, I guess.
All sorts of stuff. So I love this band called Parcels. They're like a new disco band. They're like a ton of white
Ooh,
boys from Australia, and they make really good like disco funk music. So
all right, Red.
Parcels is something that the band listens to a lot when we're together. I really like the new Drake album. I unironically like the new Drake album. I think I love dance music, so it's like a chill,
I got you. Yeah.
it's like lo-fi beats. So I love
Yes.
that. Um, and then there's two bands that I've been listening that came out with singles in the past like 2 weeks. One is a prog band from Philadelphia called Pariahists, and they have a single called Signals, and it's so cool. It is so cool. One of the most interesting kind of like space prog things I've heard in a while. And it's all clean vocals, so I was really impressed with
Oh
it.
wow.
Um, and then there's this beatdown band from Connecticut called Boundaries.
Oh.
Um, and I love Boundaries. And so
Woo!
they just had a single drop today, actually. So I was jamming
Yes.
that a bit today. So Boundaries is really sick, and I think Boundaries really hits like a spot in my brain from like 2008 when I was like crowd killing it like pizza like hardcore shows at a pizza spot down the street from my house. You know what I mean? So like
Yes.
we used to have shows, at this pizza spot called Lucky's Pizza, and the bands all sounded like heavy breakdowns, but really melodic riffs. And
Yeah.
I love Boundaries, so that's another one on my listens right now.
Oh man, that new bound. I'm so pumped for that record. I was
Yeah.
listening to it today because I'm a part of a metalcore group here on Facebook, and
Okay.
I was just like, everybody was spamming it like, yo, check this out. And I've been a fan of Boundaries for a bit, and I was just like, all right, well, I guess we're listening to it. And I like
Yeah.
sat in my car just before I was about to leave for work. I listened to it. I was just like,
Yeah, yeah, it's
oh,
great, and I like again tasteful use of clean vocals. Like I think, especially in the metal scene, like doing the clean vocal thing, especially all clean vocals, is kind of divisive. But
sure,
I
yeah.
think every band can find a spot for some melodic piece of vocals, and so I think it's really cool that bands are trying to think more outside of the box vocally. It's something I tried to
Yeah.
do on the album as well. So, yeah, very Boundaries is sick. Boundaries is sick.
And I'll have to give Pariah a listen. I live in Pennsylvania and I'm not too far away from Philadelphia. So if I do see them, I'll have to give you a
I'll
shout,
send
Ian.
you I'll send you a link after. They're so cool. I'm really excited. I think that album's out in like October or something. So
Ooh,
yeah, I'll send you that
all
after.
right. Pariah, come on the channel. Maybe we'll do it in person, and I'll be able to thank Ian in the whole internet
That'd be
lore
awesome.
here. But awesome choices. I'll have to give that Australian disco band a listen. I feel like you got
Parcels. Yeah,
parcels.
Parcels. Check
You
it
have
out.
you have some good ones, Ian. So I'll have
Thanks,
to
man.
after I'm done. I'm gonna have to like break my phone out and like get them all
Yeah,
up on
dude,
there.
let me know what you think. I love talking about music. I think that's something that people don't do enough anymore. You know
Oh
what I mean?
yeah.
And that's what me and my friends are always doing. Whether it's shit talking on each other's music taste or finding songs that you love. Either way, it's a good time.
It's music.
It's
That's how I
music.
see it. Not everybody's gonna be able to see it from your lens, but hopefully they'll by the time it's over with, maybe they'll be able to come to a better understanding of that.
Yeah, yeah, the pinnacle of
Pinnacle.
knowledge.
Pinnacle of knowledge. There we go. The next question I have for you, Ian, this one's going to be an interesting one. I'm pretty sure you've been asked this, but if you guys were to collectively come up with a cover, what song would it be?
Oh, so we were going to cover a Faceless song one time.
Ooh,
I
all
think we
right.
were going to cover an Autopsy. I think we were going to cover an Autopsy, which is like one of their that's like from that first
Oh yeah.
Akaldama, right? So that's like
Oh,
2006. So
all
yeah,
right.
I was a freshman in high school. That was like one of the first things that I listened to that really blew my mind in terms of tech death. Um, so that was a cover, and we've also talked about on tour, right? On the days off, we talked about learning like a pop punk set. So we talked about learning like Blink 182 and Green Day, and then we
What?
could just do open mic nights on the nights we're not playing on tour and get tips the nights that we aren't playing on tour. And there's a
Not
chance
wrong.
we'd make more money doing that than actually playing a metal show.
Hey guys, we're
So
Cyborg Octopus, but we're not playing the set what you think you would be seeing from us. Here's Blink 182's What's My Age Again, you know, like
exactly, exactly. So we're seeing a lot of that, the emo stuff coming back, and we all love that music too. That we all grew up on that as well.
Oh,
So
100%.
we've made jokes about making like an emo or a '90s pop punk cover band one of these days. But yeah, Faceless, and then if we could, also we wanted to cover "There Is No Business to Be Done on a Dead Planet" by All Shall Perish. We're pretty
Ooh.
close with Ben Oram. He runs We Need Merch, which is the merch company out of the Bay Area, and we work
Mhm.
with him a lot. And we all love All Shall Perish. So anytime I see Ben, I bow a little bit, say hi, and then yeah, one day if we could cover that, that would be awesome.
Those are two great ones. I do gotta give you massive credit on the cover band idea in between like days off. I gotta give you guys a lot of credit for that because that's genius as shit. Like I like that seems like it's like bands are always talking about like oh my and that I mean not to knock any band that because obviously Van Troubles suck but like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
would like that would like clearly help
Having it in your back
out.
pocket, having that in your back pocket would be pretty helpful. So we haven't done it yet, but there's a handful of songs, and like when we're sound checking, we sound check to some random songs, right? It's like the songs we
Yeah.
sound check to are never our songs, so we're always trying to play weird stuff. And then actually, there was one tour that we were sound checking with Redbone by Childish
Ooh, that
Gambino.
would
So
be tight.
we were playing the first verse, and I could not sing that falsetto in the beginning to save my life. So we were doing our best, but the covers we always just kind of fuck around and come up with some fun stuff.
That would be so cool. But guys, if you have any suggestions for Cyborg Octopus, drop them in the comments. I'm sure Ian and the guys will go check them out. Who knows? You might wind up
And
seeing,
you always see that cover band, like you see that cover band at a bar, and the drummer always has tons of tattoos, and you're like, you're too good to be playing this dive bar right now. You know what I mean? So like like anytime I'm out and see a live band doing like the cover thing, I always see that, and I always think that guy was in a metal band before he was doing this.
oh,
So
100%. You
it
just
could
go
be
up
us. It
to
could
him,
be
you're
us
like,
one day.
you just go up to him one day, and you're like, okay, I remember seeing you in Cyborg Octopus, so I clearly know you have talent. Um, yeah, I mean, listen, if it pays the bills, it pays the bills. That's all I'm getting at. I
Yeah, a
hope.
little extra gas money on off days couldn't hurt. Couldn't hurt.
We love it. We love to see it. But the next question, Ian, I have for you: if you were to have a dream guest feature on an up and coming Cyborg Octopus record, do you have any in mind that you can think of?
Ooh. Well, Dream, I'm gonna go straight to the top and say I want Surge. I want Surge from System of a Down on a
Ooh,
song, but I
that'd be
want
so
him
sick.
yelling. I don't want any goat vocals. I want him. I want him yelling. I want him to do some angry stuff.
I got you.
If not that, probably Tommy Giles from Between the Buried and Me would
Ooh.
be really sick. Um, or maybe I don't know the vocalist from Haken's name.
Oh, I know. I know. Oh,
The
yeah. I'm
curly-headed
blanking.
guy, the curly-headed dude, he's really good too. So yeah, I'd probably get some Prog Legends or System of a Down on a Cyborg song would be great.
Listen, can't complain. Listen, when you had mentioned System of a Down, listen, bless. We love System of a Down. Yeah.
Or let's go big. Devin Townsend. Devin Townsend would also be another person that would be
Oh,
sick on a Cyborg song.
I like that one. I think if I had to put my metaphorical token into the bucket, Devin Townsend. Ooh, that'd be wild.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember seeing it was Devin Townsend, Fallujah, and Between the Buried and Me. And that was probably one of the best tours I've ever seen. That was such an amazing show. And that was during that album with the storm bending on it. I don't remember
Oh,
the name of that album.
oh my God.
2016 was a beautiful year for music.
Yes.
So that was a great tour.
Woo. I got to give it to you. And that I originally thought, man, Surge definitely the token, but no.
Yeah,
Devin
this
Townsend.
is my dream. I can make it whatever I want.
Devin Townsend would be nuts. So guys, if you like Cyborg Octopus, you like Devin Townsend, you go on Twitter, you type in Cyborg
Spam
Octopus, and you spam Devin and say collab ? And again, I'm not a legal scholar, but I'd imagine
That's fine.
it's close. It's close. It's adjacent. Obviously don't go nuts, but like you could.
Yeah, be
you go a
nice to
little
him,
nuts.
but tell him to check out the album.
Yeah, tell him to check out the album, and then tell him that he'll be the feature on the next record. So
Hell yeah.
there you go. Tell him I sent you, and Ian, of course, both of us with love. Heart emojis. The next question I have for you, Ian. Obviously, you do vocals in Cyborg Octopus, but if there was another musical instrument you could master, what would it be?
So I used to play trombone actually. So
What?
I was playing trombone in a ska band when I was a kid. So like
That's so sick.
I grew up with punk kids. And so I learned trombone because I wanted to be in my friend's ska band.
That's
Like,
so
I
wild.
I
That's
totally
sick.
missed because I was
Kudos.
in choir and stuff. Growing up, so I just did a lot of singing. But I really fell in love with ska, like in my teens. I love
Sure,
ska
yeah.
music, Streetlight Manifesto in particular. But I love ska music, and so trombone is what I picked up. And I bought a crappy trombone and spent a couple years learning the best I could. And so that was fun. So if I had to master something, I would go back and master my trombonism, and bring it back. Yeah, definitely that, because there's already so many good guitarists and bassists and drummers out there. I'd have to switch it up, and then we'd have a good horn section. We'd have the sax and the trombone, and that'd be cool if I could like scream and then just like bust out the trombone
Yeah.
mid-set.
Oh, unreal. That would be
Yeah,
unreal.
yeah.
So next time Ian comes on, we already know he'll be a master trombone player.
I'll play Mary Had a Little Lamb for you next time. I'll get a
Bless.
trombone.
We love it. We love it. We love it. All right, Ian. I'm gonna hold you to that. So don't you worry.
Now I'm scared.
Don't be scared. Next question, Ian. My personal favorite. I'm a huge nerd, so I always love to ask it. If you could be a video game character, who would you be?
Oh, that's hard. Dang, and I'm a big fan of like RPGs
Ooh,
and
all right.
fantasy stuff. So that'd be really rough. I'd probably be Varian Wrynn of Stormwind. I would probably be the king of the Alliance. That would be pretty sick. Cause I was gonna say Thrall. I'm a big World of Warcraft player, so I was gonna say Thrall, but I don't think I'd want to be an orc. I think I'd want to like still be a human,
Fair enough. I love that answer. I could already tell I was in good company because I looked at your background that you have here, and I was like, listen, if he isn't into video games, I'm gonna be very shocked.
All the art was kind of designed by me, so I kind of put it all together in like screenshots, and I sent it over to the guy, told him what colors to pick. I was really focused on the art, and it's funny, the first version I made of the album cover, I made this version and had a portal on it. The album cover has a door on it.
Yeah.
I originally, the idea was like a portal in the desert with some pillars next to it. I sort of made this kind of shot, and then I looked at it and I realized I had pretty much just remade the World of Warcraft login screen.
Unintentionally.
I unintentionally remade the World of Warcraft login screen, and I was like, I can't use this as the album cover now. Now that I know what I've done, I can't do that.
Oh man. I hope you have that somewhere. I want to be able to see that.
They'll be coming out when the album comes out. I'll definitely be posting little pieces of the art and fun stuff about what we did in the making of.
Oh my god!
But that was one of the funny things. And so I made 8 of them, and the band picked the best 4 designs that I made, and then we sent those to the artist. So But yeah, the Portal didn't make it, which I'm glad
Aw.
because yeah, it would have been pretty much a blatant World of Warcraft ripoff. But I do love, just flying around in World of Warcraft and looking at fantasy landscapes. I love fantasy art. I love that kind of stuff. So when we were making the art, I was heavily inspired by video game stuff.
Oof.
And the artist Daniel Bogni, who did the art, he's from Brazil. A lot of his art that I saw, why I chose him, he had a lot of video game fan art
Oh, very cool.
from all sorts of different games. And so I saw he kind of had a vision and a color palette that I really enjoyed. And so that was a lot of the deciding factor, was seeing his experiences with video game art was why we picked him for the album.
That's awesome. Well, again, the World of Warcraft thing just blew my mind. I was so unintentionally, I want to say unintentionally, for people that may or may not, find this information a little bit, World of Warcraft, the game, just, legally, for legal reasons, it does not look exactly the same as, the logo. So just,
it doesn't. Not even close. We didn't use that art for sure.
Anyway, guys, the next question I have for you, Ian, getting back to the music stuff, if you were to compile a dream tour lineup, including Cyborg Octopus, who would be on it?
Oh, I've already dropped a lot of these bands that I would have on this.
It's all right.
It would Devin Townsend, Between the Buried and Me, The Contortionist, Us.
That would be.
It would be very prog.
I'm okay with that.
Or just us and System of a Down. I actually read an article recently about how the Dillinger Escape Plan pretty much got huge because they did a handful of shows with System of a Down in Europe. And so after that, they ended up getting giant because just from those tours alone, they pretty much tripled their fan base in like a week. So that's also a dream. But I went and saw them in last August. So when they had that 5-show run in California, I went and saw them for the first time. So that was really cool. But yeah, playing a show that big would be insane.
Oh, 100%. But
playing Tech Death to that many people would be insane.
Listen, that's the dream. That's why I'm a firm believer in manifestation. So if we can make it happen, I'm gonna definitely do my, I'm gonna put my magic fingers up in the air and say, please God, let's do this. So,
hey, you're putting our name out there. You're helping us. Thank you, Brandon.
Oh, no problem, Ian. The magic fingers. Just try to do it.
Yeah.
The next question I have for you, Ian, you kind of alluded to it, so I'm curious, in terms of the bands that you've seen live, who puts on a great live performance. Obviously, we know System of a Down, Chef's Kiss, but is there any bands, I guess, that you were just like in shock by? You're like, holy shit, they sound wild.
Well, shout out to my boys in Rivers of Nile. Rivers of Nile is an amazing band, and they put on such a good show. Jared, the drummer in Rivers, actually played for us on our first album. So
What?
he was like pseudo in our band for about a year when we were looking for a permanent drummer.
That's so cool.
And then so he's in Rivers now. And then Patrick, our saxophone player, went on tour with them one time to do all the sax parts on
very
the
sick.
album. So we're kind of connected in like a incestual sort of way, but they are so good. And they just the how they pull it all off. I think honestly they sound better live than on album. Like, it's just really cool to see that. The Contortionist is also amazing live. And their live sound is kind of weird, but I really love Polyphia. Polyphia is really cool, and I love those virtuoso bands like that. I've seen Polyphia, Chon, and Intervals more times than I can count, but
Same.
They're all so good, and I love that kind of music, just to like hang out, have a beer at a show, and like really just embrace it.
Yeah.
So Polyphia is awesome. They're always just quieter than I would like. I think Polyphia, I don't know what they're doing, but like, I always feel like I wish they were turned up a little bit more when I see them, but they're so clean, so it's hard to complain too much.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've seen them countless amounts of times, but I feel like they're one band that I would argue are better live. Like, when you see them and you see like their sound and how they're able to like kind of like antiquate The sounds that they have on an album live, I think is just so cool, and I love that they
Yeah.
continue to add that sort of like pop and hip hop and trap kind of influence into
Yeah.
their music, because you reach out to that fan. I just watched a video with Herman Lee and Misha Mansour, and they were talking about the newest Polyphia track, and they were both kind of giving their thought process on it, and I was like, no, they nailed it, like 100%. They just kind of are finding that way in between, like, being like, for people who are really into like the progressive, like kind of more technical style of music, like you and I, we're like, yo, we're eating this up. Like, this is delicious, And then for somebody that's just like maybe like, in the hip hop sphere, like they can enjoy it and be like, this is like extremely, extremely good music. And I think that
Yeah.
that's the nice juxtaposition that I think that they're hitting super well, which is like the more mainstream crowd that's just like, okay, this music's really good, and then the people that are like really technical are like,
Really
yo,
listening.
this is really good on a technical level. So
Yeah. I think it's so cool, and that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about in general, is like taking stuff from other genres. And so they have the trap drums on the album, and then when you hear it live and they've got the trap track and they've also got the drummer going crazy behind it, it's just so cool and so unique. Obviously, there's like a ton of bands trying to do what Polyphia is doing now that they're like really popular.
Yeah.
But yeah, when they originally came out, shout out to Brian Shields, rest in peace. He told me about Polyphia back when they had the Muse EP. So,
Yep, I
like
know.
with Champagne and stuff on it, and they've sort of like again moved away from shred, because there's a ton of people doing shred, and trying to focus on making really good songs and like earworms. And I think that's also what we tried to do in our own way. And I think a lot of bands are trying to think about how can we make these songs more musical, right? So tech people enjoy them, but then you never know who else might be the person to hear it and get absorbed, and then that's one more metal fan. Then we've won.
Yes, that's what we're collectively as a community. We're all trying to just like, and then
pull more people in.
Pull more people in.
Pull more people in. Yeah,
I'm about it. Like 100% on board. People are always surprised because I feel like if you look at me, you're like, this guy probably doesn't listen to metal music. And then, if it's a nice day out and it's not like super, super, super hot out, I'll have the windows down and I'll be blasting some like blast beat stuff. And they're like, I would have never expected that from this guy here,
Yeah, and I've gotten that at shows too. Like people see me walking around at a show, especially when we're in like other states than California.
Sure, yeah.
But I've gotten a couple times, you know what? I thought that you were going to leave once the music started. I didn't think you were going to stick around. But when you stayed, I was really impressed. And then you played in one of the bands. So, I've gotten that over the years. And it's, metal doesn't belong to anybody. It is, it's its own culture. And that's really something I love about it is too. It's like, it's the great equalizer. We're all out there just trying to have a good time and listen to crazy music together. Because let's be real, anybody listening to metal is a little weird, right? We're all a little weird. We gotta embrace it. We gotta embrace it.
We are very weird, so I gotta give our community some credit here. We are a bunch of weirdos, but
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Exactly, wouldn't have it any other way. Took the words right out of my mouth, Ian. But the next question I have for you, another fun one: favorite TV show, favorite movie.
Favorite movie? I'm a Lord of the Rings junkie, so I would go the whole trilogy. I try to do it once a year. I try to get the whole trilogy in once a year. That's like that's a thing that used to happen a lot more, but that was definitely a COVID thing. Happened a couple times during COVID. That's a feel good, right? I can't go outside. I'll watch these guys walk for a couple hours, and then show. I love a lot of shows, but I'm really into superhero stuff. So I really like the animated Young Justice. Young Justice is awesome.
Okay,
is really good. But right now I'm rewatching the CW, the Arrow, and the Flash. And those shows are really good too. They're pretty melodramatic, right? They're drama, and everyone's super good looking. But I enjoy it, and my wife also enjoys it, and I can't complain. You know what I mean? Like it's got a little bit of everything. It's got action, drama, attractive people, and some twists and stuff. Some superheroes. So what's not to like?
I agree with that. You know, when you can find that like middle ground with like when you're watching a show and you're like, I don't know, like I don't know if
Yeah.
we're both gonna like this, and then you do, it's
Yeah,
magic. You
and
know.
both those shows have like 9 seasons. So I've only watched a couple seasons the first time I watched them. So we'll see how good they
They get
remain.
it.
As, yeah, 9 seasons is a long time for any show to be going on.
Oh man, yeah. And then you're just like, well, they could be hot, but like how long does that meter start to, run out?
Yeah,
You could be like, man, they're good looking, but like does that save the storyline? Does it save the
exactly.
drama? I got you. So,
Yeah,
definitely feel you on that. I feel like I have to take up the mantle of watching Lord of the Rings again. I haven't seen it in such a long time, but because you mentioned it, I feel like now I got to go find it on some sort of streaming platform so I can watch all three of them.
yeah, and those the books were originally, he was a World War II veteran, right, or World
Hmm.
War One veteran.
I
So
think so.
he was in trench warfare with his troop, and so when he was writing Lord of the Rings, he very much had that same idea as like brothers going to war. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the brotherhood that's more than just like friendship. It's like togetherness in a wholesome way for the good of everything, right? So I think thematically those are great, and yeah, Lord of the Rings, you can't go wrong with Lord of the Rings.
Oh, of course. I would say I would consider it even classic cinema. That
It's
is
there, it's there, and there's never going to be another movie made like that with that many practical
no.
effects. It was the last of an era.
It
I
was
feel for sure.
it was the last of the greats. Yeah, I would argue that as well, Ian. But good choices. Always love a good superhero TV show. And listen, Lord of the Rings. We
Yeah,
say we don't need to say we already know. But
yeah.
the next question I have for you, Ian, if you were trapped on a desert island for the next month and there was one album you could bring with you to listen to, what would that album be?
That's that's hard. Um. Oh wow, that's really probably the Contortionist Language.
Ooh,
That
ooh.
I can't think of. There's so many albums, but that's one that would probably keep me okay for at least a month. It would keep me calm and also give me some uplifting and also be a little aggressive. So yeah, probably the Contortionist, and I'm going to see them play that in its entirety in San Diego in a couple months.
Very cool. Yes,
They're
I'm also
playing
going
they're
to go in
playing with
that.
Rivers of Nile, so the work. So I'm really excited about that show.
I just love that they're both doing like albums in full together on a
Yes,
tour like that.
that's so progressive. It's so progressive.
Oh, it's so cool. As soon as they announced it, I was like, yeah, this is I have to go to this. Like
Yeah.
Exoplanet 2, they're playing in full. Like, oh, put me in the
Yeah, and
ground.
I've seen him do some of the Exoplanet songs live before, but only like 2 or 3 of them. I've never seen Mike Lassard do the whole that any of those like the back end of that album. So I'm really excited to see that.
I'm ready for my brain to just be splattered across like
Yeah.
the Philadelphia venue. I think it's gonna be at Underground Arts, so I can't wait for Underground
Okay.
Arts to be just like completely decimated. In my
Yeah.
head at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
they're not playing it here in the Bay Area, so that's why I'm going to San Diego because they're skipping the Bay Area for that tour, which I'm kind of bummed about. But
sure.
my wife's family lives in San Diego, so we're gonna make a trip out of it.
Oh,
We'll
there
do
you
the
go.
best we can to get out there.
Sound
Try to bring some family members, right? Bring some family members along.
vacation, vacation, and you get to see contortions and rivers of Nile. I mean, come on,
Yeah.
sounds great.
Oh yeah.
Um, the next question I have for you, Ian, I love asking this. We've been asking this more recently, and it's just kind of managed to make its way into kind of my question rotation. But, for people who have sat through this interview, which, by the way, thank you so much for watching thus far.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I want to kind of end it off. I always end it off on kind of more of a positive or kind of like a good spin. But what do you want people to take away from Cyborg Octopus? I guess more specifically, the between the light and between air. Like, what do you want people to take away from just your band collectively? I know we kind of discussed it a little bit briefly at the
Yeah.
beginning of the interview, but like, I feel like because you guys have spent so much time and effort into it, and like not only in the musical department, but as well as lyrically, what do you want people to understand about, your band and the album coming out?
I want people to take away from the band that we are capable and we write good songs, and that we're interesting enough to go see live. That's what I would like people to listen to the music and take away. In terms of the album itself, I think if you believe strongly enough in whatever you're doing, there's other people out there that are going to appreciate it.
Sure. Yeah.
I think a lot of time making the album, I was thinking like, is it even worth it to like finish this thing? You know, because we put a lot of work in and time in, and it was like,
Sure.
is this going to be put out and no one's going to care? You know what I mean? And I think I'm always pleasantly surprised with, you know, the response of people, and also, you know, that people are also weirder than we think they are. You know, we think like we're the only weird one, and everybody else out there is normal somehow. And I think definitely take away that, you know, being open-minded and liking what you like is everybody does the same thing as you. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And like that's a really powerful thing. So I think in general, be who you want to be, and don't half-ass it. And I think that's what people are going to take away from the album, is that we're being who we want to be, and we're
Yeah.
not half-assing it. You know, we're really putting our all into being this ridiculous band that doesn't seem very thought out at first glance, but you know, we put a lot of time and thought into it, and I hope people get that when they're listening.
I think for me, it's like, you know, you think of the name, you see the name, and then that drags you in. And then I think ultimately what keeps you there is just the fact that I think you guys are very authentic, and you're very genuine in how you go about, like, not only like, you know, the way that music videos go, not the way that music goes, you know, the lyricism. I think all of it, you know, encapsulated together is very authentic. And so for me, that was what kind of resonated with me in listening to all of these different songs, was just like, man, there's just this level of authenticity and realness to this band that, again, if you look at the name, you're like, man, how could they be like, and not saying that you couldn't be genuine, but like if you look at that name, you're like, that immediately throws you off. So I think it's kind of like the counterintuitiveness of the name that ultimately wraps you in, but then also just having that genuine nature of what you guys do, and how, you know, how endearing you guys are.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, now I'm sticking around, and now I'm in for
Yeah.
it, you know.
And in the same way, you know, like the name's a paradox, but then again, so is life. So get used to it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's how I think about it. Like life doesn't make any sense. Our music doesn't have to make any sense. It just has to be what we like, and we're going to do the best job we can. So that's definitely what I hope people get across from it. And I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'll definitely send you a sneak preview of the album after we get off the phone, so you can jam it up and let us know what you think.
There we go, Ian. Well, I appreciate it. The last thing, again, the reason why you're on here, tell the people where they can find you at on social media, what you guys have coming up. You can talk about when the album drops, you know, anything of that nature, new, you know, shows, all of that jazz. Tell me what's going on.
Awesome. Yeah. So Between the Light and Air and Learning to Breathe are both coming out on vinyl on August 26th.
Woo!
And that is going to be through Silent Pendulum Records. So Silent Pendulum on Bandcamp. We're there. Steak Sauce Mustache is there.
Yes.
So Hideous is there. There's a lot of great bands on the label, so definitely check that out. And then YouTube, Cyborg Octopus, Instagram, Cyborg Octopus Band, and Facebook. We mostly use Instagram and Facebook. We're not too hip on the newer social medias. So
Fair enough.
yeah, definitely check us out, and yeah, like, comment. Seriously, we love it when people let us know what they think, even if they don't like it. You know, we really like to hear people's opinions on stuff. So definitely reach out, let us know what you think, and just enjoy the music, dance around, have fun.
There we go. Well, guys, again, huge shout out to Kristen. Love her to death. Always will. So she always gives me some really great artists to have on, and glad to have Ian into the fold here. But go check out Cyborg Octopus. I know you could be immediately turned off by the name, but I would argue to push further and to go actually delve into this band, because there's a lot of lyrical depth, there's a lot of musical depth, and honestly, it was quite a shock to me. So as someone who has been doing this for, you know, 7 years, and then being in the music scene for a much longer period of time, I can argue that this band is something unique and special. And I'm glad that I'm glad that enough people have, you know, annoyed me enough to have them on, first and foremost, and secondly, that we were actually able to do it. So please go check out Cyborg Octopus. All of the links will be in the description where you can find out about the band, the music. Go pick it up on vinyl, but not before I do, so you should message me first, and I'll buy it, and then you can go purchase it so, I can get a copy. Just saying, I don't want to...
Yeah, we have less than 200 copies of each left, so
all right.
we're slowly, I don't know how slowly, but we are selling out as the closer it gets to the release date.
Listen,
so definitely go check it out.
Ian already told me that basically that was just code word for when we hang up the call, go buy it now so you don't miss out. So that's what I'm going to go do, and you should go too as well. Can't wait to add that to my vinyl collection. But again, if you like the content and you like watching these videos, please like, comment, subscribe. It goes a long way. And again, let Ian know what you think of his band, because listen, if I see any hate in the comments, I'm coming after you.
Give it to me.
I'm gonna knuckle sandwich. No, I'm just kidding. But people are entitled to their opinion. So if you leave your comment down below. But if you enjoyed this, really do appreciate it. But more importantly, go check out Cyborg Octopus, and huge thanks to Ian for coming on and chat with me tonight.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon. Have a good one, man.